you. I want to thank President Pro Dorns and Columbus City Council, Directors Messer, Director Stevens, Jonathan Moody, and the Zone In Advisory Committee. I want to thank you all for being here. Excited to join our partners from City Council as we announce the next step in modernizing how and where Columbus grows in the years and decades to come. Over the past year, we've made historic progress in updating our city zoning code, progress that's been over 7 decades in the making. Last summer, we adopted new mixed-use zoning districts along 140 miles of our city's primary corridors. This unlocked the potential for up to 88,000 new homes in this community and set the stage for more walkable neighborhoods, vibrant main streets, and economic opportunity for our residents. Those initial reforms were a historic leap forward, but they were just the beginning. Roughly 4% of Columbus parcels were included in that initial effort, so we still have a lot of work to do. Now we're taking the next step, and it is a big one. I see Council President Hardin joining us here. Come on up here, Council President. The next chapter of Zone In will cover 43% of parcels in Columbus, and it will address existing zoning rules that limit how we use land for job growth, housing, and essential services and amenities in neighborhoods across the city. This includes land that is primed for enhanced mixed-use developments, industrial and warehouse operations, and business and institutional campuses like hospitals, universities, and office parks. We have a few of those. We're expanding our reach and focus because outdated regulations are holding us back. From a code that still references basket and hamper production to restrictions that can make it harder to repurpose vacant shopping centers or build housing near where people work. Zone In will help to address these challenges by modernizing zoning to attract and retain jobs in this 21st century industries like logistics, clean manufacturing, research, and technology. Expanding where mixed-use developments are allowed, bringing new life to aging office parks and shopping plazas, allowing for more homes near job hubs and along transit corridors to reduce commute times and household transportation costs, directly in line with our work with Link Us. Facilitating the construction of essential services and amenities like grocery stores, child care centers, and health clinics in the areas we need them most, and further protecting neighborhoods from manufacturing and industrial sites with updated rules requiring proper buffers, design quality, and environmental safeguards. That's how we build a stronger, more resilient neighborhoods in a more inclusive and affordable Columbus. Take Grandview Crossing, where we are today, as a powerful example of what an improved zoning code can deliver. Originally the Dublin Road landfill, an unregulated industrial dump, this site required extensive brownfield cleanup and a complex rezoning process in order to be repurposed and redeveloped. And look what we have here today. That environmental work was critical. And as we continue to modernize our zoning code, we remain committed to protecting public health, nearby neighborhoods, and our natural environment. Redevelopment must be responsible, and that starts with doing things the right way. Today, these 55 acres are transforming into a modern mixed-use development, reflecting the kind of vibrant, walkable environments that strengthen quality of life and economic opportunity for our residents. Yet, projects like this are difficult under Columbus's current zoning code, which often requires multiple variances before projects can receive the approval they need to even get off the ground. Without clear design standards or the flexibility to promote more mixed-use projects like this one, we lack the speed, tools, and predictability to further realize transformative change. But by modernizing our city zoning code, we can create a more efficient and effective code overall. However, a modern code isn't enough on its own. To do this responsibly, we also need to update our city's land use policies to guide our zoning reforms. Unlike the mixed-use corridors we addressed last year, many of the areas we're focusing on next don't have consistent land use policies already in place. And without this fundamental policy foundation, our zoning updates cannot move forward. That's why, in tandem with our work on Zone In, we're also developing a city-wide land use policy, a cohesive growth strategy that will ensure future zoning changes are aligned, consistent, and informed by feedback from our residents. Think of it this way. Zoning is the legal code that tells us what can be built and where. Land use policy is the compass that guides those decisions, rooted in our community's values, market conditions, infrastructure capacity, and long-term goals for growth. If we want to create more housing near jobs, if we want to encourage investment in the right places, if we want predictable, high-quality growth that meets the needs of our residents, then we need to tackle both parts of the equation, the policy and the code. And that's exactly what we're doing. In the coming weeks, we'll be out in the community holding workshops, attending neighborhood events, and launching online surveys to hear directly from our residents. We want your take on where new homes, jobs, and services should go, how zoning can support the vision you have for your neighborhood, and what values you want to see reflected in our collective growth. So I invite all of you to join us. Visit columbus.gov/zoning update to learn more, sign up for updates, and find ways to get involved. We're also introducing a resolution to Columbus City Council outlining the priorities and strategies that will guide our work in the weeks and months ahead. This will help to ensure that we remain focused and transparent in our efforts as we continue to modernize the zoning code. One reform, one neighborhood, one opportunity at a time. To that end, it's my pleasure to introduce a great partner in this work, a tremendous advocate for Zone In. Please welcome President Pro Tem Rob Dorns.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful day, albeit a little hot in the city of Columbus. Want to thank certainly the mayor and his administration for their partnership on this. I said to him about a year ago when we passed the first phase of Zone In my 6+ years on council, this was the closest collaboration that I think council and the administration has ever had during my time, in which we worked tirelessly between the two branches of government, but also the community, to bring folks together really to understand what zoning reform and modernization really means for the future of the city. So certainly want to thank the mayor and everyone from his cabinet administration for all the work over the last several years on this important project. As we again stand here about a year from when we passed the first phase of Zone In, we are now beginning to see the fruits of what modernizing our zoning code can do for housing production in the city of Columbus. Projects that had died in bureaucratic red tape over years and years, now with updated land use are seeing the light of day. We are seeing significant increases in dense projects being proposed in areas that we know we need more dense housing. Projects that are 10 stories or more near OSU's campus at a time in which OSU has welcomed its largest freshman class in its history. Those kids need to live somewhere. And having a zoning code that allows that housing to be built in proximity to campus, rather than taking years and years and years to bring that online, is exactly the kind of results that we were hoping for in that first phase of Zone In. And it's not just about 10-story towers. Over those corridors across that 4% of the city, we've seen projects of 4, 5, 6+ units that otherwise would have, as the mayor mentioned, been stuck in bureaucratic red tape potentially for over a year in order to bring modest increases in housing stocks across the city of Columbus. That is the power of changing our land use policies in the city of Columbus. We need housing of all types across the city of Columbus. And one of the things that is really exciting about this next phase is not just the focus on housing, but the connectivity to jobs and economic centers. When we think about the future of Columbus, we have been extremely focused on making sure that we increase the production of housing in our city to help stabilize housing costs. But it's just as important, as the mayor said, to make sure that we are also being thoughtful around how do we approach economic development within our city to make sure that we're also producing career opportunities for residents here in our city. When we think about legacy, legacy industrial or commercial places, it's things like getting ahead of when we see things like Eastland Mall that became a blight on a neighborhood, providing the kind of flexibility built into that land use to encourage redevelopment on the front end, and really to make sure that we as a city are being holistic in the way that we are approaching these policies long term. As the mayor mentioned on council, on Monday night, Council President and I will be accepting a resolution from the administration to state the principles of what this next phase of zoning will be. And I certainly want to thank Council President and all of my colleagues for digging into this work over the last year. I like to joke that if you want to be bored and go to sleep at night, please join Columbus City Council at 6:30 on Mondays during our zoning committee, and we will put you to sleep. But that day-to-day zoning work, while important, pales in comparison to when we think back and actually have the ability to step back and think holistically around what are we doing as a city really to shape the next several generations of Columbus. I think that is something that my colleagues and I, and certainly the mayor, have been partnered extremely well in making sure that we are being thoughtful on this. Last thing I'll say before I introduce our next speaker is that, as I said to countless residents during the first phase, now is the time to be engaged. In Columbus, we have oftentimes been focused on project by project negotiation and analysis between neighbors and the city and applicants and developers and housing providers. We need to get away from that reactive nature with a city that is growing as quickly as we are. We need to be proactive, and that is exactly what Zone In is. So if you care about the future of the city, you care about the future of your neighborhood, again, this is a big phase. We're talking about 40+% of the city of Columbus being included in this effort. If you care and want to be engaged, now is the time to do so. Workshops and engagement opportunities will be starting in the next several weeks, and certainly will go on over the next year as we really think about what zoning districts make sense to be created in this phase and where those zoning districts are ultimately going to be applied. So rather than, again, being stuck in this reactive mindset that all too often we have as a city, I'm asking our community to once again join us and be proactive about how we want to think about the future of our city of Columbus. With that, I have the opportunity to bring up our next speaker, who is not only a national expert in design and architecture and land use, but also a Columbus kid through and through, a family who's literally helped build the city of Columbus for generations, someone that I consider a friend, that is a voice on this issue, both from a design professional, but also as someone who's grown up and cares deeply about the city of Columbus. Please welcome Jonathan Moody.
Yeah, and I won't be quite as thorough with my remarks. So I'm a member of the zoning and appreciate the invitation to talk more about what it means to be a Columbus resident and the amount of pride that I personally have right now as the city really takes the opportunity to look forward and think about something and talk about something that, for the most part, bores people to death, but is is the undercurrents to so many things that happen. So as a part of the Zoning Advisory Committee, there's a few things that are important that the group does. It's really about offering some transparency about this process and what is going to happen and what we want to see happen, talking about equitable reform and how we implement those ideas into the process, and really to make sure that we have representation and conversation that reflects broader community needs. Those are really important aspects of what the Zoning Advisory Committee will do. I can't ignore the duality of the time that this represents, meaning like we're standing here in 2025, we're talking about 50, 70 years in the future, but we're also talking about the reality of that the zoning code that we're currently operating on is 70 years old. And yeah, it was a previous idea, previous set of mindsets. You can imagine 70 years ago that we were not thinking about some of the things that we're thinking about today. And it cripples our ability to really talk about current progress. So what we're looking to do and what we're excited about is, to for everybody to engage and do what I get to do every day as a designer, is to think about the future and imagine the future for our kids and the communities that are ahead, and imagine and think, how do we take action to make that what we want it to be? So it's a great time to get involved, and that is the third charge. This is the time when people will get the opportunity to get more engaged. We want you to get involved. This is our city, and we're talking about our future, and your feedback and support is really necessary to help make it happen. So it's an exciting time, and look forward to what's ahead. Thanks.
Thank you. Vice President, you want to make? You sure?
These folks out of the heat.
All right.
Smart man.
You can ask me any question you want about any topic over there.
Yes.
But thank you all for being here. You guys need to get out of the sun too. So thanks, everybody.